Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
The Kings of Sport present the Spinning Black Fist Podcast with your hosts, Chinyere Okafor and 10-Day Ray Williams.
Hey, it's your boy Two-Way Ray.
And the one and only Chi-Chi.
And we're back again with another installment of that Spinning Black Fist Podcast on Black History Month, no less. Hey. Hey, Chi-Chi, how you doing today? How you feeling today?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you, Ray? What's up? What's happening on your side?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm enjoying this lovely Monday. For those in the States, and this is as of this recording, not only is it Black History Month, but it is also President's Day over here in the States, which means that we get to both celebrate the accomplishments of our Black culture and also celebrate the most famous men who profited most off of slavery. So we could do that all in one go. So yeah, but at least I get a day off from work, so that's all I really care about.
This side in South Africa, it's just a normal Monday, I guess. Storm brewing outside, and I guess it's just vibes.
Yeah. Well, at least you're in the house, you're safe, hopefully. Nothing really too bad happens outside. How often do you guys get storms out there, by the way?
Well, it rains quite often here. And when I say storm, I'm not talking about anything hectic, I'm just talking about a little bit of a thunderstorm. Yeah, we don't really get any hectic weather. Although last year we did have an earthquake here in South Africa, which was very odd. Because, we don't get those quite often. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, stay safe. Hopefully, like you said, it's one of the smaller storms, just a little thunderstorm, just a little passing rain. Water never hurt anybody, as I always say. But enough of my jibber jabber. We have a special guest. This brother, I have known this brother for years, and I wanted to go ahead and we want to get straight to speaking with him. He is a tremendous part. He's doing his own thing now, but for once in a while, he's been a tremendous part as far as local MMA here in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area is concerned. He's been doing his best to cover sports, or cover combat sports rather, from all different facets, whether it be as a editor for some small local organizations, whether it be as a commentator. And he's also, as we'll get into it, he was also able to make his way all the way up to the UFC, not as a fighter, but as a producer. So with that in mind, I want to bring on our special guest. It is my pleasure and privilege to welcome on Imani Muleyyar. What's going on?
What's going on, Fat Dag, man? You make me, it's going to be hard to live up to that. I'm just a regular dude.
Well, we appreciate having. Matter of fact, like you're an inspiration. If we're gonna do Black history, I do want to acknowledge that you have inspired me to kind of get into this space as well. I don't think a lot of people know this, but Imani is the person who actually taught me how to do kind of video editing and streaming stuff. So you kind of set the blueprint for me, Imani, and for that I thank you, brother.
No problem. I mean, that's
Thank
my
you,
biggest
Imani.
challenge. Yeah, of course. That's what I do. I help out people out. No questions asked, no bills paid. It's just go ahead and help each other out.
I appreciate that. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started with just you telling us where you are, giving us a brief introduction and just your history with combat sports and how you got into this space.
Hey, I'm going to take it back. Let me think. All right, we're talking Black history. About to get some history because I've been into martial arts my whole life. Just like anybody else, when you're a kid, you go to karate class, you do all that. It was something to do, being in a single parent home. We need activities. We were all boys. So we did wrestling, we did karate, we did aikido, we did judo, we did all that. And then by the time I was a teenager, I got into boxing and kickboxing. And And then I went off to the military. I was in the Army, so I fought in Iraq, and everybody thought they were hoist crazy. Everybody did jujitsu. So by the time, mid-20s, I did all the martial arts. And I was a big fan of mixed martial arts because back in the day, I think we had DirecTV or some type of satellite cable, and we would get Pride, Pride Fighting Championship. I didn't even know about UFC. I knew about Pride because it was like came on really late. And then yeah, Pride and Glory. So we got to see high level kickboxing and then high level MMA in the stadium. This was before the UFC got big in America. They were in stadiums in Japan at Pride Fighting Championship. So that's what I was watching. I was watching those people. That was even before Fedor. So I was watching. We talked about Gary Goodridge, who I'm going to talk more about, and Igor Vovchanchyn. So some of the old classics. And so by the time I grew up watching that stuff, getting involved in martial arts, it's just a natural progression of martial arts is to MMA. A lot of people have a misconception about mixed martial arts. They think, well, for one, it's simply cage fighting, or it's simply like a Bruce Lee style where you just find the best of all martial arts. But it is what it was meant to be from the beginning, the proving ground for martial arts. So if you took karate as a kid, eventually you get to martial arts. If you took judo as a kid, eventually you get to mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts is like the end game for all martial arts. So that's where I was. So I started training. I had one amateur fight, wasn't really my thing. But at the same time, I was going to school for video production because I was a music producer growing up. Then I switched over to video producing. And people don't know when you do MMA, it's a lot of gym time because it's not about just getting tough. It's about knowledge acquisition. So you got to learn jujitsu. You got to learn Muay Thai. You got to learn multiple martial arts. That's why it's good to have a base, but then you have to step it up. You have to be like a black belt and everything. So you're spending hours in the gym as an amateur. So while I was going to school video production, I was like, I might as well just shoot video in the gym. I'm here all the time. So I started shooting fighters and started making like fighter promos. And then eventually the promoters saw it, local promoters. So I started doing promos for the promoters, commercials for the promoters. And then that led all the way up to me shooting full events, multiple cameras. I just got a bunch of my classmates from school. We got all the cameras. We would shoot like a real fight. We would live stream fights, a bunch of us. And that continued for, I don't know, probably like 10 years. Like after I graduated, just kept doing it. I started traveling, started going to Jersey, Philly, went all the way out in the Midwest, was out in Nebraska, just shooting fights and doing fighter promos. And eventually it got to the point where it's like, I reached out to PFL because they were in DC and I was living in DC. Like, okay, I've been doing this forever. Let's see what's the next step. And I was applying to all the production jobs at the UFC for like 10 years straight. And then eventually it was like, I just got used to doing it. And one day they just called me back like, hey, we saw what you're doing. We want to hire you. They flew me out there. I showed them what I did. They gave me some footage. I edited real quick and they hired me on. Yeah. And they wanted me as like a producer editor. That's my job trade. I worked at like NBC Sports and other places too as a producer editor. But when I got there, I edited a promo so good that they're like, you know what, we're going to have you as an editor. So I ended up editing their documentary show called UFC Connected. And I was lead editor on that show. I did that for about a year. I didn't like Vegas, so I came home, but they still contract me out. So to this day, I still do documentary pieces on some of the biggest fighters in the world. So that's pretty much my MMA journey.
Nice. Incredible journey, incredible story. Chichi, did you have any questions for Imani?
So off camera, like off the record, you actually mentioned that you also, did, kickboxing and all of those, right? And I'm curious, outside of MMA, which one was actually perhaps your favorite one to do, like actively do?
To be honest, MMA is the best. Outside of MMA, I would have to say like boxing. I did a lot of boxing, but MMA is great because it's like it's like you have so many options. Like I'll be boxing, and it's like I could just kick you right now. Or we doing jujitsu, and so some jujitsu guy had me in a weird position. He thinks he's winning. It's like I can punch you in the face right now. So like MMA just like okay, yeah, all your options. I don't like when people take options away from it. So MMA gives me all the options, but I like boxing because wrestling is hard on the knees, on the back. Wrestling is hard. Wrestling is like ugh. So that's jujitsu included. Anything grappling is like hard, but boxing is like chill. I always tell everybody, jujitsu may be the most effective martial art. It works most of the time, but boxing is the most efficient martial art. Like all I have to do is like one punch and you're done. So it's like I'd rather take the easy route.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Well, with that said, thank you for giving us just a bit of your backstory. And we're going to go ahead, like we mentioned before, it is Black History Month. I know, why you always got to talk about Black History? Why can't we have white history? No, we're not talking about any of that right now. We're
don't get me started, because I got something to say. I'm about to go Dr. Uma on these people.
Don't
get me started. All right, I'm gonna keep focused, but don't open that door, brother.
Got you. We don't want to get canceled, brother. We just in our third episode. We got to say that our network here, the Kings of Sport Network, we do have a Patreon, so we got to save that for Patreon. We got to get you back for the Patreon.
Oh yeah. I'll let it loose. We going full Cat Williams. I got you.
Gotcha. Well, we did want to specify when we're talking about Black History Month, we do want to highlight the achievements of African Americans and just Black folks in general within the space of mixed martial arts. So I'll hand the mic off to you, Maestro. What are some key moments that you have like built in your memory or built in your head as far as African Americans or Black folks within the MMA space, whether it be UFC, Bellator, or even Pride, as Imani mentioned?
So one of the things that I always say, right, is that I always hear, like, especially like the hardcore MMA fans, you guys have this background where you grew up around Pride and you got to witness it live and all of that. And I didn't quite get that, which does make me very sad. But when it comes to Black history and all of that, I think one person that always stands out to me, like he's always just at the top of everything, is the one and only Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson. That guy did a lot for Black history. He did a lot for the divisions that he was in, and he was just that guy, I don't know why the UFC let him go, honestly. Like, they shouldn't have. That was such a poor trade. But he's just honestly one of the people that I always look at and I'm like, yo, like if ever I get the chance to do some sort of Black History Month piece on some sort of MMA athlete, it would probably be him. So he's just great, especially like there's this other picture where he has like 2 titles draped on him and he has all these other titles just laying here in front of him. I was like, that picture goes so hard. So yeah, Demetrius Johnson is that guy for me.
Oh, that's great. That's a good one. I like that.
Yes. He's very, very underrated, and it's very, like, I don't know why people look over him so much. I think just with the relationship that he had with the UFC, like, he didn't deserve that. He's definitely high up there. Should be one of the greatest flyweight fighters, if not the greatest flyweight fighter in history. And certainly up there as far as one of the best pound for pound, like top 10 right now. So how about you, Imani?
Oh, see it. Like I said, I came up in those times and I saw people, and I'm right now I'm in my 40s, so I have to take it back for real. Even before UFC, it was a huge Black presence in combat sports or martial combat sports, because it started with kickboxing for real. Back in it was like the 80s and 90s, and then a lot of those kickboxers became famous because that's when things were getting televised. And yeah, you had people like let's see, I got a nice little list here. Let's start with I'm gonna take it to MMA and then we're gonna go back, because UFC 1 had one of the greatest martial artists in the world that nobody talks about. Do y'all know about Ron Van Cleef? Ron Van Cleef. He was in UFC number 1. He was called the Black Dragon. He was one of the first Black people to actually go to Hong Kong and actually become an action star in Hong Kong. And before that, he was a champion kickboxer, multiple-time black belt. And he fought Royce Gracie in UFC, was it UFC 1 or UFC 2? It was one of those. I think it was UFC 2. But he fought Royce Gracie and lost. And, it's because, jiu-jitsu, that was like everybody's introduction to jiu-jitsu. And he was I would have to say he was in his late 40s, early 50s, and went in there in top shape. He was actually one of the instructors or trainers of Timac. Do y'all remember the movie The Last Dragon?
Yes.
Yeah. The main character, Timac. I hope I'm saying that right. He was in Ron. Yeah, Bruce He was in Ron Van Cleef's corner at UFC 2. If you look at UFC 2 and you look at the top of the cage, you'll see Timac from The Last Dragon.
Wow.
So that's real Black history. When I talk about Black history, I'm talking about like the history of Black people. And Ron Van Cleef is one of the greatest Black martial arts of all time. And he fought in UFC. He was older. He injured himself in training. He didn't know about jiu-jitsu. He got choked out. So after that, he went on to become a jiu-jitsu black belt. So his story really hasn't been told, but the Black Dragon fought in UFC 2. And just so look him up, Ron Van Cleef. He's one of the greatest, not just Black martial arts, but martial arts in history. And then you have some amazing people. Like I said, it started with kickboxing. So Ron Van Cleef, that world. When we talk about Maurice Smith, he came up through that world. It was a top level kickboxer who got introduced to MMA, and then he fell on with the Lions Den and started training with them. A lot of these people came from that kickboxing world. And then after that, we have people like in Pride, what I was watching, like Gary Goodridge, talking about him. He was one of the founders. He came in martial arts background. One of the few guys actually tried to fight with a gi on. You know what I mean? There we go. What was it you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Ron Van Cleef. Ooh. Yeah, there you go. The Black Dragon. Yeah, I swear he was in his like late 40s, early 50s. Yeah, and he came in there ready to go. But yeah, so a lot of people from that kickboxing world came to MMA, and that's what we're seeing today with people like what's his name from England? He's about to fight. I forgot. Dang, but he's like a point karate guy. No. He's the other dude. Yeah, he came from was he in Bellator first? I'm gonna remember his name later, but
Michael Venom Page.
Michael Venom Page. It's a lot of Black kickboxers that were like big, and they transitioned to MMA from the beginning. And then
Raymond Daniels as well.
Yeah, Raymond Daniels. Yep, all that stuff. So that's really where it started. The Black kickboxing scene of like the 80s and 90s, and then that became the pioneers of the Black pioneers in MMA. So I just wanted to throw out a few. I could talk about this all day. I'm like a martial arts historian, but I just want to give respect where respect is due. When you talk about MMA and you talk about Black History Month, you have to say Ron Van Cleef.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that, Bert. Yes, I didn't even know about him, but I'm going to be looking them up as soon as we're done. I didn't even know about him. I knew about everyone else. I knew about like the Art Jemersons. Of course, they plaster him all over, and they talk about Jim Brown being the commentator there. But I never knew about Ron Van Cleef, so I'm going to go ahead and do a deep dive on him once we leave. But, my bad. I got to do one more. Actually, in UFC 1 was what was it? Pat Smith. Do y'all remember him? Yeah,
Pat. He was in UFC 1.
I've heard the name.
And he was a top level kickboxer. It was so many Black kickboxers at the beginning of MMA. Was it Sham submitted him? Was it or heel hook, bust his leg up, stop him? He learned he got jiu-jitsu, came back, and he knocking people out and choking people out. Pat Smith, he was in UFC 1. UFC 4. Pat Smith was in UFC 1. Yeah. So everybody talks about Art Jemison. Art Jemison, he was a boxer. He didn't know what he was doing. Nobody, he didn't move on. Pat Smith was a professional kickboxer who went to learn jiu-jitsu. So there you go.
Yeah, do you go ahead, look these up, folks. Look these up. Look these names up. It goes deeper than what you see right now. And like Imani was alluding to, like we got to know our history to know where we went through and know where we are now and see what we can do to move on in the future. So I appreciate the quick history lesson, Imani. I did have some figures in mind. And I did have primarily fighters, but and pretty much was with the USC within the Zuffa era and old, and that is the good brother Burt Watson. He was like the fight coordinator, backstop Sharon. So. He was a fight coordinator. You good, Imani? We got you back.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. You were breaking up a little bit on my end.
Yeah.
Same beside.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to clear out the screen sharing to try to make my internet flow a little bit more. But Burt Watson,
Yes.
he was in a production role, and it was pretty much helping the fighters when they come in from fight week, just helping them maintain weight or seeing where their weight is, making sure that they'll be able to make the right weight for the fight. Also checking in with fighters, making sure that they have all their gear. And then like once fight night comes around, he's known for his famous "We rollin'" as fighters are coming out and they're making their walk out to the cage. So that brother, I think he also, I believe he was the manager of Frazier, the famous boxer.
Yeah,
Not
I think it
Walt
was.
Frazier. That's a basketball player. The one who
Joe.
fought Ali, Joe Frazier. Yes.
Yeah.
Smoking Joe Frazier. He was actually like a best friend and confidant of Joe Frazier. He was actually drove him around as he was alive, and they were like best of friends. So Burt Watson just instrumental in the success of UFC, from what I can tell. As far as like the modern UFC, once Dana White and the Fertittas bought the promotion. So that's one unsung hero we don't hear enough about, that we need to, just keep his name alive. He no longer works with the UFC, but his contributions are felt till this day. So shout out to Burt Watson. But as far as fighters are concerned, I think, and I was kind of joking about this off air, we got to go to what I deemed to be the Negro Leagues, and that was the UFC light heavyweight division. Yeah. It was just stacked with just premier talent that were African American and Black. You had, the list goes from John Jones to Daniel D.C. Cormier, and then you had Rashad Evans, and then you had Anthony Johnson, and then you had Quentin Rampage Jackson, and the list goes, Jimmy Manawa, list goes on and on. You had Anderson Silva for a moment, like peek his head in the light heavyweight division. So it's just, and it was just that top for about a good span of like 5 years. We just had like just top tier African Americans, a top tier Black talent in that division holding the belt in one way or another. So it was good to see that in the sport. That was kind of like, as I was, because I had started becoming, I'm not as deep as Imani is as far as like my fandom, but I started following them once the Ultimate Fighter had come out. I think they were like in their first or second season. That's when I really started trying to follow UFC more and more. And then like I consider that light heavyweight era to be their peak. And it was good to see those brothers with different personalities. It is kind of, again, kind of not troublesome, but it is kind of illuminating how some of the fighters were portrayed. I harken back to when Rashad Evans and Rampage Jackson had the Ultimate Fighter season.
That door, that poor door.
Yeah.
I feel bad for that door. RIP door.
Who makes a door out of cardboard? I don't
know. But
yeah, it just, it kind of seemed problematic the way they were kind of playing up just that rivalry that they had, but it was definitely entertaining to say the least. So but just those brothers, I believe, are kind of templates and kind of set the stage for those who are in the UFC right now. When you go back, or when you look at now, you look at our Kevin Hollins, or you look at our Jared Cannoniers or Curtis Blaze. We look at the folks who are kind of taking the torch now, and you want to salute those folks, and hopefully they can continue to achieve more as we kind of get into the pay-per-view a little bit later on, we'll talk about one person who's becoming, I know Chi-Chi would get this reference, one person who's becoming the Brock Lesnar of his division by taking out all the black talent. But we'll get to that a little bit later on.
Well, you bringing up something important. I got to say something because you remind me of the Floyd Mayweather comments that he had. You remember what he said about MMA and the landscape as far as color?
Oh no! Please,
Oh
please
no,
go
no.
ahead.
He said MMA is a white sport. It's because he was like boxing. You know, the boxing champions are the black and all that stuff. But and you look at the audience, you see like black people in suits and ties and things like that. You look at the
Yeah.
MMA crowd, you see a whole bunch of white frat boys with beards and stuff. And then you got all these wrestlers, these American wrestlers and stuff. So he was hypercritical of that. Yeah. How do y'all feel about that? Like just the way the way race is spread out through the sport. You know, we have black people, we have white people, all that stuff. But yeah, he was going in like, boxing is for blacks and Latinos and MMA is for white people.
I mean, you do see it. It is there. Like you can't really say that, like, that's flat out wrong and all of that. It is there. It is one of those things where, like you're saying, he said, it's just one of those things where even when you're just looking at the crowd, we're more likely to see people who look like us in a boxing crowd as opposed to an MMA crowd or a wrestling crowd. But I think as the years go by, it's getting better, especially on the wrestling side. With MMA, we still have quite a way to go, not gonna lie. Because it is still primarily like dominated by like a white audience. So yeah, I think that is very accurate. Hey?
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I think it kind of lends itself to it being like an access issue. And I kind of compare it, the analogy that popped in my head is kind of when you see basketball and baseball. With basketball, of course, majority black, because all you need is a basketball, and sometimes you don't even need a court. Sometimes you could just dribble in your house. You could dribble in the street. Somebody puts up like a milk crate and just cut the hole out and cut the bottom out that bad boy. You got a court. With baseball, like you need all of these different equipment, and then you need to set aside for it. If you play on your school's team, and then if you got a travel team, you need to set aside funds for that. And like, oh, you got to have a bat, you got to have a glove, you got all this different stuff. And I think the same thing works with kind of seeing that interaction between I'm about to say basketball again, boxing and mixed martial arts. Like boxing, like sometimes you don't even need the gloves. Like you'll have some gyms and some like inner city areas, and they'll have the gloves for you. All you got to come in, you just got to come in, bring yourself, and you learn the techniques and stuff like that. But with MMA, it's probably like you got to get some gloves and you got to get some shin guards, and then you got to learn how to do jujitsu. So you got to take jujitsu classes too. So now you got to, all this money is coming out. So I think part of it is like an access issue. And I think that's getting a bit better now. I see a lot of like MMA gyms and jujitsu gyms are reaching out to like lower income communities and doing things for them. So, and another thing is just the cultures behind the sports as well. Like you both alluded to, like boxing is really, really black. Like it's just you see it in the presentation. You see it with the guys coming out and they're dressed with like Gucci, or they're dressed in all these different stuff. Like they get to express themselves in a certain way, whereas like MMA is kind of focused to, oh, you got to be so disciplined. Oh, you got to do this. Oh, you got to do that. And you do have people. I think one connection between the two is that you do have kind of the trash talk in there. And sometimes in both sports, the trash talk can get problematic. And even with boxing, even though it is known as a black sport, you still get pushback from people, especially in Floyd Mayweather's heyday, where it's like everybody wanted Floyd to lose. Whether like every time he fought somebody who was from Mexico, like everybody's rooting for him to lose. Especially when he fought Conor McGregor, everybody was like, it's just this huge divide. So I think I understand where you both are coming from as far as like MMA being geared more towards like that mainstream quote unquote white art audience. And of course, like especially when they were first coming up, you had the Just Bleed guy. I don't know if you know this Chi.
Oh, that dude's going down in history. Yeah, he need to be in the UFC Hall of Fame. The Just Bleed guy.
Yeah. And I think now he's like a computer analyst somewhere. Like he's got a cushy job. Like he's not doing any of that anymore.
Man, he better be in there with his shirt off and UFC tattooed on his chest. That's all I know. You better ride that fame.
Yeah, but I don't know if you knew about him, Chi. Is a guy he would have.
I did.
Yeah, UFC.
That's like one of the most infamous pictures from the
UFC. He's like the QAnon shaman of MMA. You know, that's exactly that's exactly who he is.
Oh my goodness.
But Imani, I actually have a question for Imani, right? I'm a person who also worked in the MMA space here in South Africa. I worked for a prominent MMA promotion here. So it's one of those things where I just actually want to ask you with regards to the promotions that you worked with and all of that, specifically the MMA promotions. Did you find that in the way that things were being done, they were perhaps being geared towards how do I put it? They were perhaps being geared towards white people. Let me put it like that, right? They were perhaps being geared towards white people as opposed to maybe black people, and not even just with regards to the marketing, but also maybe even the structure that's within that promotion, you know, in terms of like the staff members and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really tricky because you are right, you are correct. The MMA world, at all levels, even at highest levels, is still sort of the wild, wild west. It's only been out for like, I don't know, 94. So it's still like in the development stage. So a lot of people hopped on a bandwagon, the original fans, you know, those white frat boys drinking beer. Some of them were like, you know, I can do a promotion too. So a lot of those promoters come out of that original fan base. And then so culturally speaking, you know, they're not too connected with like the black culture and in the States, the inner city culture like that. So it's like any other thing. I'm glad we're talking about this. I can get on my Umar stuff now. Here we go. No, but it's just like anything. That's the world they come from. They come from, you know, we can call it racism, we call it nepotism. It's just like that. All the people they know are white. All their friends they know they're white. That's what they're going to ask for. They operate in a white space. So it's not like they're doing it intentionally. They're just a couple of people who saw an opportunity and hopped up and used their tools. And a lot of them aren't like super sad. Well, the ones I dealt with aren't like super like savvy business people. I mean, they do know business, but like they're in the business of combat sports, of what do you call it, prize fighting. So it's not like they stand on moral high ground. You know what I mean? Right. So if they want to do funny business, they're not going to feel bad about it. So if they're white people coming from that white fan base who's surrounded by other white people that doing it in the thing, they're just going to operate how they want to operate, and that includes a lot of times I see it. That includes the act of excluding other groups, the way they operate, the way they work. And as far as like the promotion side, they promote to that. They're sort of, everybody is trying to like do what the UFC does. So if the UFC is trying to get those white frat boys, they're trying to get those white frat boys. So it's the unfortunate thing. I think I actually saw the statistics about it. It's really like a lot of their fan base are the upper middle class young white professionals. So a lot of the promotions are just trying to ride those coattails, unfortunately. But it's not like intentional. It's not like malicious. I just think it's convenience, and you know, they're just trying to get a quick buck the easiest way they can.
Yeah, because I mean, I've been to like boxing events and I see like the staff it has more diversity. It has more black people in the team, you know, and all of that. And then I look at the promotion where I was working, for example, where for the longest time, I was one of the only black people on the team. Yeah. You know, I'm the only black girl on the team at least. And then there's a black guy, and it's pretty much us. Like outside of the logistics team, it's pretty much just us as the black people in the team. And it always kind of felt like, okay, this is weird, because now, for example, when we have to go out and shoot athletes to get their stories and all of that, it's like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to get myself into trouble, but it's just one of those things where there is a different narrative that we have to push when we're shooting the black athletes as opposed to, for example, the white athletes.
Yeah.
And that was very problematic for me.
Well, I dealt with that. No, when I worked at the UFC, yes, I was one of the very few black people there. And then that's one of the reasons why I left. And then, but all of the things you're saying, yeah, at the highest level is working. And I think because of boxing, like I said, it's older. Boxing has matured to the point where it's like it's a strong black boxing community. It's a strong Mexican black boxing community. They had decades, centuries to like build that up. And then so MMA is still just these random weirdos who like half naked dudes fighting in a cage. It hasn't really built up to where you have strong communities, strong homogenous communities, like a strong black MMA community, a strong Latino MMA community. But as far as you hit on the nail with the stories though, oh my goodness, I think that's one of the reasons why they brought me on. It's like it's hard to tell those stories. I don't know if y'all remember they botched a Black History Month a few years ago.
Yeah,
that was horrible. I was crying. And the Michael Chandler thing, right, with his son. I was on the floor like crying. Oh, do you know about this, Chi?
Ray told me about it on the last episode.
Oh goodness! It was like we can't have nothing. It was like they brought him on Black History Month because he adopted a black son. Man, he looked confused. Like what? I thought I was talking about my son. He looked like what are y'all? Oh, that was horrible. And then after, I think the next year I got hired. You know, I'm not the two are related, but it was obviously a problem. But that was like the peak of the problem. Like, yo, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. But in a smaller sense, yeah, when it was like the black fighters, and it's like I could tell their story. You know, I started bringing in more hip hop, more trap, more drill music. I started doing all that stuff.
Yeah, maybe then Imani can answer this as well as you, Ray. I'd like to also get your perspective on this. Then, Imani, you raised the point of like how basically boxing has had that foundation and it has had the time to grow and mature as a sport and get to that point where there's more diversity and all of that. Do we think that MMA will and can also get to that point eventually?
Yeah, that's where they're going towards. They're trying to MMA. Boxing is international, but MMA is like really international. Like you're talking about. ONE FC proved that so much that they were like, you can go to a small Southeast Asian country and make superstars. So I'm witnessing. Like I said, I see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. They're building a strong Chinese MMA community. You know, the UFC is actively building one. They're building strong communities in different places. What is it? Francis Ngannou became what is it, the ambassador for all of Africa or something like that for the PFL or something.
PFL Africa.
Yeah. So they're actively trying to build these strong communities in different places. So I mean, I don't think I know it's going to head in that direction.
Ray, do you also agree?
If you can repeat your question real quick for me, Chichi.
Basically, whether you think that MMA is also going to go in the same direction as boxing and grow and become more diverse.
I think so. I think Imani alluded to it as well. It's just you're seeing it branch out in different parts of the world. And you're seeing with the Dagestanis, with the Russians, they're getting more into it. You see, of course, with Brazil, they're getting into it bit by bit. You see in East Asia, like Imani said, with China and Thailand, you're seeing all of these different parts. They're branching out. And I think it's going to make a huge difference. I think it's going to make a really huge difference. So, yeah, I do see that in the future as far as like the sport as a whole branching out and becoming more diverse. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, let's get some black faces. Black History Month. Let's put some black faces in the cage, in the UFC, behind the camera and in front of the camera.
Indeed. Now, one question that I did come to mind for me, Imani, when you were explaining just like your roots with UFC, and you mentioned how kind of the lack of that diversity is kind of a reason why you got out. And some may argue, oh, well, you got to be the change that you want to see. You got to stick it out in there, because how are people how are other people going to be influenced if you're not there to provide it? What was your what was kind of like the impetus for you just being willing to say, you know what, I can't wait. I got to go.
Well, not that was more personal and professional. Honestly, it's the best job I ever had. I would have stayed. I would have I would have been that change because, as you could probably tell, it's hard for me to keep my mouth shut. So, but yeah, but I was actively for me, it was a service to the fighters. It wasn't a job to me. It was like, okay, I'm gonna tell these stories. So they'll give me black stories to tell, and I'm like, I got to tell these stories right because nobody else here can do that. So I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was more personal for me. I was just a point in my career where I wanted my professional independence again. I wanted to be my own boss, and I wanted to be with my community of peers that I've grown and raised with to sort of build something new. So that's what I did. I started my own network. But yeah, I still independent contractor for the UFC. They still send me all of their they send me a lot of more diverse stuff, black stuff. They send me all of like the Brazilian stuff, and so I keep telling them I don't speak Portuguese. Why y'all keep sending me this stuff? Yeah, but yeah. So I would have stayed. That's but it was personal reasons why I left.
Gotcha. And as we kind of wind down with your time with us, and for that we appreciate you being with us. I do want to get into you, as you mentioned, starting your own network. If you just wanted to go ahead and plug the Imani network, I know you're now in a different space. It's kind of like a bit further away from MMA, and you're doing more arts, culture, poetry, things like that. So just go ahead and let the good people know what the Imani network is all about.
Sure. I'll actually tell the story as a transition. Like I said, I'm from a small town, Baltimore, but like a lot of small towns, there's great talents with no outlets. So it's almost like a gold mine. But for me, my martial arts journey sort of ended. Like I got to the age where I really couldn't fight competitively anymore. And the UFC, right before I left, they put me in a commercial for the Contender Series. And I got to fight in the cage with a local fighter, somebody I trained with down the street. We damn near had a real fight. Like I got injured. And I was like, wow. And so I was looking back on it like, wow, I just fought in the cage in the UFC. You know, it happened in a weird way. Like, but so this is like as good as it's going to get as far as my MMA journey goes. So I was like, all right, I'm ready to move on. So let me see. For personal reasons, I moved back to my hometown. I was like, this is a gold mine of talent. So I wanted to create a platform for all the talent, singers, rappers, dancers. I call it urban cultural arts or black cultural arts, where it's sort of anti-ratchet stuff that I don't like promoting negativity. So I try to find like positive artists of all genres and then give them a platform. You can find Imani Network on Instagram. Right now it's a startup, so it's social media based. Eventually we'll get to the full website rollout and then streaming services, longer form content. But Imani Network, Instagram, Imani Network, TikTok, the Imani Network on YouTube and Facebook. And yeah. So just keep looking out. Just promoting positive Black arts and entertainment culture.
I love that.
Thank you.
I love that so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Just check it out. Let me know what y'all think.
Definitely.
All right. That's all I got.
Great.
Is he still there? Did he freeze? Oh no. All right. Are we taking the show over?
Am I here?
Okay, we're here.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's catching up. Yeah.
Yeah, that doggone Xfinity boy. What do I pay for it?
No.
This is all I need is just a stable internet. There's nothing else going on. I don't know what's going on, but I appreciate you sticking around with us, Imani. Thank you for sharing your story. And guys, go ahead, check out the Imani Network on all platforms that were mentioned. Imani Muleyyar, thank you for just stopping by and getting a chance to talk with us. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all. It's good meeting you, Chi-Chi, for the first time. Nice to meet you. I hope to see you again. And
likewise.
And then Ray, you know, we got a date. I got to choke you out. Gee, no, I don't care. We got it.
Of course, man. I'm always down the train, man. Of course, just let me know. Hit me up.
All right, thanks, y'all.
Thank you, brother. Peace. All right. Again, good brother, Imani Muleyyar. And yeah, we actually we knew each other, and we got involved with actually training with one another. Shout out to College Park Mixed Martial Arts, now known as Combative Principles Mixed Martial Arts, because they're no longer in College Park. But shout out to that gym. Shout out to Josh Peters, who's the instructor and the head of that gym. So appreciate Imani again. Thank you,
Ray.